Before I start this part, I want to say bad news, guys. The hatch for Roblox is not an egg hunt. It's been found out that it's not. Anyway, let's just start. Kenneth Zeller, a gay man in Toronto, Ontario, who was employed as a school teacher, was murdered by 5 young offenders in Hyde Park in 1985. The incident spurred the Toronto District School Board to implement a program to combat anti-gay discrimination and violence, culminating in the creation of the Triangle Program, Canada's first alternative school program for at-risk LGBT youth in 1995. On August 21st, 1989, Elaine Brussel, a straight man in Ottawa, was attacked by a gang of teenagers who wrongly assumed him to be gay while walking home from his job at the Chateau Laurier. The attackers chased him through Majors Hill Park to the Alexandra Bridge and then threw him off the bridge, resulting in his death. This resulted in a gay and lesbian community outcry and eventually led to the formation of the Ottawa Police Services LGBT Liaison Committee 2 years later. Aaron Webster, a gay man in Vancouver, British Columbia, was beaten to death with baseball bats and pool cues on November 17, 2001, in a part of Stanley Park known for cruising. Ryan Cran, along with 2 unidentified youths, was convicted of manslaughter in Webster's death. Jordan Smith, 27, of White Rock, British Columbia, was assaulted on September 27, 2008 by 20-year-old Michael Candola of Vancouver. Smith was holding hands with another male while walking in Vancouver's Davie Village, an area frequented by LGBTQ individuals. When Candola started following the pair with 4 to 5 of his friends and began shouting anti-gay obscenities towards the gay pair, Candola confronted the 2 and punched Smith on the side of his head, knocking him unconscious. Smith required surgery for his injuries. Candola was charged with assault causing bodily harm, and police sought to invoke Canadian hate crime legislation against Candola. A Facebook group with over 4,000 members was established and a petition for a minimum life imprisonment sentence for Candola. On April 30th, 2010, the assault was deemed by the BC Supreme Court to be a hate crime, and Candola was sentenced to 17 months in jail. Should have been a lot more. On March 13, 2009, Sean Woodward was charged with aggravated assault after physically attacking 62-year-old Richie Dowry in Vancouver's Fountainhead pub, allegedly because he's an F-slur. He deserved it. Dowry had briefly bumped into Woodward's shoulder, which the heterosexual Woodward characterized during his trial as a predatory sexual event. Although Dowry survived the assault, he suffered serious and permanent brain damage and spent the entire rest of his life living in care facilities until his death in 2015. At Woodward's trial, Justice Jocelyn Palmer rejected the allegation that Dowie had groped Woodward, ultimately finding that Woodward's intention was to deny, deflect, and dissemble. He fabricated this story to justify his outrageous assault. On December 8, 2011, in Whitehorse, Yukon, a gay man, Owen Williams, was kicked out of a bar, handcuffed, and detained by the RCMP for looking at gay hookup sites on his laptop. As a result, a former Supreme Court judge stated that the RCMP tolerates misogynistic, racist, and homophobic attitudes. On September 30th, 2012, in New Westminster, British Columbia, January Marie Lapuz, 26, was found in her home in the 500th block of 3rd Avenue around 10 p.m. September 30th, 2012, suffering from stab wounds. She died the next morning at Royal Columbian Hospital. Charles Jameson Neal, 22, pleaded guilty to manslaughter in June in her stabbing death and was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Lapuz was the first transgender person on the executive of Shore Vancouver, an organization supporting gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender South Asians. She was named the organization's social coordinator according to its website in 2012. On June 28, 2023, Giovanni Villalba Alaman, an international student from Ecuador, stabbed and injured 2 students and a professor during a gender studies class in Haggai Hall at the University of Waterloo. Maria Pia Castro, an out lesbian football player, was beaten to death in 2008 in Limache. Her body was set on fire to cover evidence. Her case was closed even though no culprit was found. A feminist group led Chilena contra la violencia hacia las mujeres, Chilean Network Against Violence Toward Women, protested this decision. Nicole Saavedra Bahamondes, an out butch lesbian, was murdered in Limache in 2016. Her body showed signs of torture. The Chilean Network Against Violence Toward Women also protested her murder, labeling it a femicide. Activists in Saavedra's family criticized the justice system for not solving her case. Skipping this one and this one. 3 participants at a gay pride event in Croatia were attacked by multiple assailants on July 7, 2007. The attackers had also prepared Molotov cocktails but were stopped by the police before using them. Many people taking part in gay pride marches in Eastern Europe, for example Romania, Russia, and Serbia, have been beaten after leaving the march. Bertrand Delano, the openly gay mayor of Paris, was non-fatally stabbed by a Muslim immigrant, Azzedine Bakani, in October 2002. Wilfred de Bruijn was beaten while walking with his boyfriend in the 19th arrondissement of Paris on April 7, 2013. De Bruijn later posted a photograph of his badly injured face on Facebook to raise awareness of homophobic attacks, attracting international media attention in the process. The attack was executed by Tayeb K. and Abdel Malik M. On June 9, 2019, a lesbian couple was insulted and physically assaulted at a street food truck by a patron in Berlin. On October 4th, 2020, a gay couple was attacked by a 20-year-old Islamic extremist in the old town of Dresden. The perpetrator stabbed one of them to death and severely wounded the other one, and is now facing charges of murder and attempted murder. The prosecutor of the case believes homophobia was the main motivation behind the crime. In 2005, the Grand Ayatollah Ali al-Sistani issued a fatwa on his website calling for the execution of gays in the worst, most severe way. Following protests from UK-based Iraqi gay rights groups, Sistani agreed to remove the fatwa from his website except for the section calling for the punishment of lesbianism. In January 2007, a United Nations report described the increased persecution, torture, and extrajudicial killing of Iraqi lesbians and gay men by the Shia death squads of the Badr and Sadr militias, the armed wings of the two main Shia parties that controlled the government of Iraq. Okay, this one's gonna be long, so bear with me. John Roach, a 29-year-old who worked as a night porter at the then-named Munster Hotel in Cook City, was stabbed to death in a homophobic murder on September 8, 1982. Michael O'Connor of Windsor Place, St. Luke's in Cork, was arrested and charged. He admitted to police that he engaged in sexual activity with Roach before killing him in room 26 of the hotel. O'Connor told police that Roach tried to make him gay, saying, "I had to kill him. He would have ruined my life. He wanted me to become a gay. I said no way, and I killed him." O'Connor pleaded not guilty to Roach's murder. Despite his admission of premeditation and of tying Roach to a chair and killing him by stabbing him in the chest, O'Connor was only convicted of the lesser sentence of manslaughter. Mr. Justice McMahon, when passing sentence on O'Connor, cited a gay panic defense. The judge said he believed Roach was a homosexual who enticed O'Connor to take part in homosexual acts with him, telling O'Connor, "After engaging in these acts, you were likely to feel hostility and revulsion, and because of your low level of intelligence, you have less than normal self-control." O'Connor was only sentenced to 5 years in prison. Okay, it's well. Three marchers in a gay pride parade in Jerusalem on June 30th, 2005 were stabbed and wounded by Yishai Schlizel, a Haredi Jew. Schlizel claimed he had acted in the name of God. He was charged with attempted murder. On July 30th, 2015, a marcher was killed and 6 others injured again by Yishai when he stabbed them. It was 3 weeks after he was released from jail. In 2020, an older woman threatened a teenage couple with a knife and called them ugly lesbians on public transport in Genoa. An alleged gay man was chased down a pier by a Jamaican mob in December 2005. The man, fearful of the crowd, jumped into the water and drowned. A group of gay men, including gay rights activist Gareth Williams, was stoned by a mob in Mandeville, Jamaica on February 14, 2007. The attackers reportedly had earlier demanded that the man leave the community. On May 22, 2016, reports indicate that between 5 and 15 people were killed in a mass shooting at La Madame, a gay bar in Ixalapa. 3 gunmen entered the bar and carried out a mass shooting. Although the state prosecutor issued a statement noting that 5 people were killed and 14 were injured, contradictory reports suggest there were many more deaths. Although police are searching for the gunmen, no arrests have been made. Jeff Whittington, a supposedly gay teenager, was beaten, kicked, and stomped to death by 2 men who reportedly later posted beating up an F-slur. The murder took place in Wellington, New Zealand on May 8, 1999. Whittington's attackers, Jason Morris Meads and Stephen James Smith, were sentenced to life in prison. On June 25, 2022, 2 people were killed and 21 more injured in a mass shooting at 3 sites in Oslo, Norway. The shootings are believed by the police to have targeted Oslo Pride, the local LGBT pride event hosted by the Oslo branch of the Norwegian Organization for Sexual and Gender Diversity. The police arrested a man, a naturalized immigrant from Iran, who has been charged with murder, attempted murder, and terrorism. They are investigating the shooting as an act of Islamic terrorism. Oh my God, this happened 3 years ago. Exactly on this day. In May 2021, Shining Path Gorillas, I don't know if I said that word, killed upwards of 14 people in bars in the Frame region. Men, women, and children were killed either by flame or gunfire. The goal was social cleansing, limpieza social. A pamphlet left on scene read, "We must clean Frame and Peru of chuchipambas, of brothels, madmen, homosexual degenerates, lesbian degenerates, drug addicts, undisciplined individuals who do not respect anyone, thieves, kidnappers, corrupt people, snitches, spies, infiltrators, and so on. Kevin Fred was a Puerto Rican singer and the first openly gay Latin trap artist. On January 10, 2019, while Fred was riding his motorcycle in Santo San Juan at about 5:30 a.m., an unidentified gunman shot at him 8 times, hitting him in the head and hip. The Puerto Rico Trans Youth Coalition labeled Fred's murder as a hate crime. Two people were injured when Blah Bar, a gay bar in Cape Town, South Africa, was bombed in November 1999. In 2007, in Soweto, lesbian activist Cesar Kelly Sigasa and her partner Salome Masua were gang raped and murdered. In February 2021, Boning Gayle was killed by a stab to the neck. Her fiance, a transgender man, believed she was murdered because killers perceived her to be a lesbian. He survived the attack. Ahmet Yildiz, a gay man, was shot to death on July 15, 2008 in Istanbul. David Kato, a prominent Ugandan gay rights activist, was beaten to death in his home on January 27, 2011. Kato had recently appeared on the front page of an anti-gay newspaper under the headline "Hang Them." Gay rights activists believe he was murdered for this reason, though the police say he was the victim of theft, not a hate crime. Henry Bright, a hotelier who was gay, was stabbed to death at his home in December 1989. Brianna Jai, 16, a trans girl who was stabbed to death in Colchester on February 11, 2023. The police described her murder as a targeted attack. Two 15-year-olds, a boy and a girl, were charged with her murder. Prosecutor Leanne Gallagher said the attack on Jai was extremely brutal and punishing. Friends of Jai said she was bullied at school because she was transgender, including being gay beaten. Cheshire police initially stated that they had not found evidence to suggest Jai's murder was a hate crime, but later said they were not eliminating any possibility from their investigation, including whether her murder was a hate crime. That's bullshit. I mean, one of the suspects said that he wanted to see if it screamed like a boy or a girl. That's his words. I actually do remember what he texted to the girl. Anyway, some British media outlets were criticized for their coverage, in which they denamed and misgendered Jai and failed to state that she was transgender. The trial of the two 15-year-olds charged with her murder began at Manchester Crown Court on November 27, 2023, and both were found guilty of her murder, receiving life sentences with a minimum term of 20 and 22 years respectively. Okay, so I got the text message of Jenkinson told Ratcliffe, "If we can't get Boy E tomorrow, we can kill Brianna." To which he responded, "Yeah, it'll be easier, and I want to see if it will scream like a man or a girl." Okay. On June 24th, 1973, 32 people died of fire or smoke inhalation as the result of an arson attack on the Upstairs Lounge, a gay bar in New Orleans, Louisiana. Harvey Milk, the openly gay San Francisco city supervisor, along with Mayor George Moscone, were assassinated on November 27, 1978 by political rival Dan White at San Francisco City Hall. Outrage over the assassinations and the short sentence given to White, 7 years, prompted the White Night riots. Ronald Gay entered a gay bar in Roanoke, Virginia on September 22, 2000, and opened fire on the patrons, killing Danny Overstreet, 43 years old, and severely injuring 6 others. Ronald said he was angry over what his name now meant, and deeply upset that 3 of his sons had changed their surname. He claimed that he had been told by God to find and kill lesbians and gay men, describing himself as a Christian soldier looking for my Lord. Gay testified in court that he wished he could have killed more F-slurs before several of the shooting victims, as well as Danny Overstreet's family and friends. "49 people were killed and 53 injured in a shooting at an Orlando gay nightclub on June 12, 2016. 5 people were killed and 25 injured in a shooting at a Colorado gay nightclub on November 19th to 20th, 2022. On February 7th, 2024, Next Benedict, an openly non-binary 16-year-old, was attacked in a school bathroom. They died the following